Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. We are back. I know we were out, we missed an episode or two, but there is a reason for that. Tara, do you want to tell everyone why you don't have the internet right now?
Yeah, so I we got into our house here in the Czech Republic and there's no Wi-Fi. Um I didn't think I would miss being at the hotel, but now that I'm just alone in this big house and there's no Wi-Fi, it's been an adjustment. We were supposed to have Wi-Fi installed yesterday, and excuse me because I'm also sick, so sorry for my voice, but it just works really weird here apparently, and you can't just make an appointment and get Wi-Fi hooked up. You have to wait for the installer to call you and give you possible dates, and then at his whim he can come out any one of those 3 dates, but we can't even get the installer to call us to give us a date. So it's kind of all up in the air right now. And the only reason I'm able to record this podcast right now is because I am basically stealing Wi-Fi.
That is so crazy. It's like you don't realize how much we need the internet for like everything nowadays until you don't have it for a couple of days. I
Yeah,
would go crazy.
I can't do anything. Like I I have limited data on our phone because of our phone plan, but I'm trying not to go through all of that. And so you take for granted the stuff I normally do, looking up things, watching videos on YouTube or looking up stuff on social media, even just voice texting, calling people. Like I'm really not doing much of anything except listening to my iTunes in airplane mode. So, and then random
Well,
text.
yeah, I have been dying to text you, but I didn't know if it like eats up your data or anything like that. So I've been holding back because there's so much crazy shit going on right now. Like it is insane. I just wrote down like a few of the different things that have like just happened recently, but there's so much. We're gonna have to probably talk more about it on Friday. But yeah, I gotta fill you in. I gotta fill you in on like
Yeah.
the big thing, first of all, because when you get Wi-Fi, you'll have to go and watch the videos to see how many people showed up to this massive protest in Washington, D.C., like right outside the White House. I mean, shoulder to shoulder, everywhere you could possibly stand, there were people. And one video that I was listening to, they said that they were estimating there could have been like 100,000 protesters in DC on that day. It was insane. And so what happened was they smeared red paint on the gates of the White House and defaced our historical monuments. But the White House is acting like, it's no big deal, just a peaceful protest, no big deal at all. Everything is fine. And these people, they graffitied the Marquis de Lafayette statue and put their Palestinian flag on top of it, which is just crazy. And with all of that going on, only one arrest was made. And you had the protesters chanting things like Genocide Joe. So I guess like that's the new nickname of Joe Biden, Genocide Joe. And some of them were even climbing the fence of the White House and waving the Palestinian flag. And I'm watching this, waiting for guards or someone to like take them down, treat them like the J6ers. But nope, it was like all cool, no big deal. And where was Genocide Joe while all of this was unfolding? Where he always is, at his beach house in Delaware. So there was that,
Shocking.
Tara. Like, it's mind boggling every time I see these big cities, how many protesters are out there in support of Palestine.
Yeah, I obviously didn't see much of this over the past few days, but when we talked about recording this podcast, I just like quickly looked up a couple of articles and I was shocked. Like just the fact that you can like graffiti and vandalize and deface federal property, and it's okay because it's a protest from the left, right?
Yeah,
Because it's the left. It's like, oh, and it's not a protest. They're just expressing their Second Amendment rights. It's just
exactly.
like, I'm sorry, their First Amendment rights. They didn't have guns. But I did read, I wanted to say this one thing. I did read that there was a lot of "fuck Joe Biden" written on some of the monuments.
Yep.
And it's like, obviously I can get behind that. Not in the sense of like, I don't agree with defiling or spray painting or carving shit into other people's property, but I did see kind of a hilarious tweet or X or whatever the fuck it's called, from Benny Johnson. And he said, quote, "I'm at the White House right now. Every monument has been desecrated and vandalized. Most of the graffiti says 'fuck Joe Biden.'" And then he had a little video and he like zooms in on the monument. And then he writes in the post, like, "This one's literally across the street from Hunter's room at the White House. Weird how I'm not seeing this anywhere. Where are the reporters?" And it's like,
Yeah.
where
It's
are
like
the
the
police?
new, right. It's like the new Black Lives Matter, except
Yeah.
it's bigger. Like there's more of them and it's everywhere. And just like you said, when it's the left, you just get away with it. Nobody cares. And
Someone called it like a passionate protest or some shit like that.
yeah. Yeah. So you look at that and you see like this mass of people. And then you have Kamala, our favorite person, saying that the big issue we need to focus on right now in the United States is Islamophobia. After like this. And so I'm going to actually play the clips. You can hear just how tone deaf she is. And clearly she has no idea what's going on, or she just doesn't care. I don't know, but take a listen to our vice president.
In our fight against hate. For years, Muslims in America and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America, including the brutal attack of a Palestinian American woman who is Muslim and the killing of her 6-year-old son. A senseless act of violence that the Department of Justice is investigating as a hate crime. For so many people in our nation, the past few days and weeks have brought about all too familiar fears. Fears that they will be targeted, profiled, or attacked simply because of who they are, how they worship, or how they look. And so today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia. This strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence, and to address the concern that some government policies may discriminate against Muslims. For example, the so-called Muslim ban, which President Biden revoked on our first day in office.
I wonder how much money they're going to pour into that, protecting, Islamists when there's Jewish people in the country that are like literally being targeted every day.
You notice in that clip, she brought up like anti-Semitism was just kind of thrown in there. Like, we're going to group all these hate crimes together, but we're not going to address that. And again, I did not really do any research for this podcast, except look at like a couple articles. And the other thing I did look at was there was an article that came out in Politico on Monday. And it was about the CEO and director of the Anti-Defamation League. He came out on Saturday and said there's been a 388% increase in anti-Semitism in America since this war started. And he was talking about how like these weren't just, normal run-of-the-mill incidents targeting places that were specifically Jewish. He was saying like, targeting a coffee shop on Long Island or ice cream parlor in the Bay Area, some restaurant in Chicago. And he was saying like he's the grandson of a Holocaust survivor who had his barbershop like vandalized and destroyed by the Nazis in Germany. And like, he can't believe that this is happening in our country today. And that's what I'm having a hard time processing is like, we talk about how just awful everything has become in the past 2 years under the Biden administration, but like this shit's next level scary. And it's something that I never thought would happen after the Holocaust, especially not in America. And yet here we are basically supporting anti-Semitism, and it's fucking frightening.
It is frightening, and it's just appalling that they're not addressing it. And the fact that she comes out and says that Islamophobia is the issue when there's 100,000 people that are all like pro Palestine right now, like in DC, and that's the problem, is clearly like they're pandering to the left and trying
Yeah.
to, wiggle their way through this main issue that the Democrats are now facing because they're totally divided.
Did the White House even have any comment on all the vandalism that occurred? Did
No,
they say
I
anything?
haven't heard anything. Now I haven't like looked into it a whole lot, but the only things that I'm seeing is that, oh, Joe Biden was in Delaware at the beach house. So like no comment, but everything's okay, but no like official anything. And same with, just everything going on right now. It's like there is no person in power that is taking a strong stance and talking about how much of an issue this anti-Semitism is. And so
Yeah.
they're basically like saying it's okay, once again, because it's the left that's doing this. And I know like last week we talked about the Jewish students that were held in that school library while like the protesters were chanting murder Jews. But it just keeps getting worse. They had at Cornell University, a student sent out messages saying that he would stab or slit the throat of Jewish men and then rape or throw Jewish women off of a cliff. Another message said that he was going to shoot up 104 West, which was a dining hall that serves kosher food. And the student that made these threats, his name is Patrick Dye. He was arrested, and Cornell did cancel classes in response to the threats. But I haven't heard anything else as far as that goes. And it's like, once again, there's no strong stance against this. Then you have at Harvard, once again at Harvard, a video that's gone viral of a crowd of these pro-Palestinian protesters. I don't even know what to call them because I don't think they're pro anything. I think they're pro hate. But they were surrounding a Jewish student and screaming shame in his face. And I mean, like a ton of them, like ganging up on this guy. I mean, it was really scary to watch. I can't even imagine what this kid is going through or what the parents are going through of, Jewish students. And one of the students in that group was identified as Ibrahim Barmel, and he is the editor of the Harvard Law Review. Now, once again, like people are calling for his, getting fired or getting taken off as editor or something. I haven't heard anything that they're doing to this guy. And I can't imagine what anyone who is Jewish is thinking right now. Like, I would be terrified. I would be absolutely afraid of being targeted. And then when you have our vice president saying that Islamophobia is the issue and she's not calling this out, that's even more terrifying because it's like saying, okay, they're going to let this happen and they're really not going to do anything to stop it. And we all know how that went the last time there was massive anti-Semitism in the world. And again, like none of these universities are making strong statements against this because they don't want to upset, their students and the left and all the people that support them. And it's funny how like all of these people, the politicians, the universities, the celebrities, they all want to stop free speech when it's a Trump supporter. But when it's an extreme left group that is really, truly doing hate crimes and making threats, they just let them do whatever they want. And then free speech is great. And then they celebrate it. It's like such a double standard. I can't stand it.
Well, and again, it's like you expect to see these stories in Europe, right? Because there's always something crazy going on in Europe. But seeing it in your own backyard, it is just like it's literally blowing my mind. Like I don't even see that here. I'm not seeing anything like that here. And granted, I'm not watching a lot of the news or social media or anything right now, but I feel like I'm living in like a completely different world, which I guess I kind of am. But you don't see any of that going on here. And just the fact that it's going on in America just shows you how far gone our country is.
It's
It's just
terrifying.
insane to me. Yeah.
And, and now everyone, including people on the left, are talking about the border. And you
Mhm.
had like Christopher Wray and pretty much everyone that's in charge saying like, oh yeah, we're probably going to see terrorism in America any day now. And it's going to be worse than 9/11. And it's like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you guys were so pro, open the border, anti-Trump wall, all this nonsense. And now look, and when you see these people gathering in mass like this, and you see these idiot kids following along like Hamas wouldn't attack them, it's just insane.
And maybe that's why there were no arrests made at the White House, because they know that if they do, this shit's gonna start going off. We're gonna start having the terrorist attacks, because what that one arrest was at like a McDonald's or something, which I'm sure was like since that's a private location, my guess is the owner probably like wanted the
Called.
guy arrested.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you have people literally scaling the fence at the White House and graffitiing federal property, and they do nothing. Like,
Right. Yeah.
no, it doesn't make any sense. So I guarantee you they're scared as fuck of a terrorist attack if they speak out against these protests.
Well, I think they're afraid of that. And I think they're also afraid that if they say anything against these people, they're fucked when it comes to the election, because this
Yeah.
whole Israel-Palestine conflict has turned young people against Biden. I mean, they're calling him Genocide Joe. They're saying fuck Biden. Like, this is the thing that, is making them realize they don't want him as president. And then when you look at the polling that has come out, he's losing more and more of the Black and Latino vote as well. And this whole issue is now splitting the party, because you have so many Democrats that are Jewish, and a lot of Democrat campaign like funds and things are coming from prominent Jewish people. So it's really going to be interesting how they navigate this. What?
Are you hearing anything from Hollywood? Because again, we
No.
talked about
And
briefly
that
last
is
week,
what is
like,
shocking.
yeah. Okay. I thought
Yeah,
maybe somebody would speak up.
no, Jewish people, like, they run Hollywood. All the big
Yeah.
directors, everyone is Jewish. And someone else was saying that on a podcast. They're like, why aren't they speaking up? It's
Mhm.
like, why, like, they have the platform. Why aren't they doing anything? And I think some of them, I mean, who knows? I don't think they have much self-awareness at this point, but I think some of them are realizing the monster they created. This is what happens when you fund the universities to teach about, people that are victimized and equity and all this stuff. I mean, you get a bunch of kids that like just are filled with this ideology that is completely unhinged at this point. I mean, there's no reasoning at this point. They think it's completely okay to talk about harming Jewish people. And what they don't realize is like, okay, let's say we do, free Palestine from the river to the sea, and Palestine takes over Israel and kills all the Jews, which is what would happen. Well, then what are they going to do? Well, they'll build tunnels under Israel so the terrorists can hide under there, and they'll hide behind their people and go commit another terrorist act, probably on the United States. And then when we go to fight them, they're going to hide under their people, and then they're going to come here. That's where they're going to go next. When they're done with Israel, they're going to come to America, because America, according to them, is big Satan and Israel is little Satan. And it's like, no one is ignoring the fact. They're all saying this now. Everyone in the government is saying now that there are sleeper cells. They know they're here and they're just waiting. We're like sitting ducks waiting for something to happen. And it's all because this idiot president and his administration decided to let 8 million people cross the border. And there is no telling how many of those 8 million people are straight up terrorists. And judging by the protests and the size, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
So there's that. But like I said, like Biden is, he's done. The polls are terrible, and they're usually more left leaning. Trump is ahead in every swing state except for Wisconsin. I think Biden's a little bit ahead. And everyone on the right and the left is talking about when Joe is going to drop out of the race and who's going to take his place. And it's going to happen, right?
It's got to be Newsom, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing though. And like, this is what I can't get past. And a lot of other people are bringing this up too. How are they going to do that? Like, how are they going to bypass a Black woman for a white man?
Because they're gonna find a reason that she can't step
Maybe.
into the president role. They're gonna find a reason. She is so fucking incompetent that I mean Joe's incompetency is like, you know, they make fun of his dementia and, you know, Sleepy Joe and all that shit. You can't even make excuses for her because she's just literally fucking incompetent. There's no
She
way.
hasn't done anything. She's wasting her
Nothing.
time on an Islamophobia strategy. I'm sorry,
Well,
but
she
there's
doesn't.
a million other things you could be focused on right now.
Did she laugh when she was talking about that? Because I swear I've never heard her give a speech where she doesn't break out in laughter.
I don't know. I just pulled that small clip, but I'm sure at some point she cackled, or maybe they like re-recorded it because it was clearly like she was reading off of a teleprompter. I mean, the woman can't just talk. She's
I
incompetent.
still think I think it has to be, I think it's going to be Newsom. I really do.
I think it'll be Newsom unless it is Michelle Obama.
Yeah, or that.
I'm afraid of her. Like I think would have a chance. Newsom, like, how is he going to win? I mean, look at California. I just don't see it happening. He's certainly
Gonna
acting
win
like it's
the
going to happen, but
same way they always win, by cheating.
yeah. And he
I
has
mean,
the money behind him.
look how many times California residents tried to get him out
Yeah.
of the governor's seat.
hmm
Petitions went around, millions and millions of signatures. Oh, it wasn't enough. Oh, yes, it was. I mean,
Right.
that was very clear deception in the governor's office. You know, it's
Mhm.
they're gonna find a way to put him in there. I mean, it's just inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just really worried because everything's pointing to Trump because you have so many people, a lot of young people. They were saying there was a huge shift in people under 30 because they're seeing it. They're going to the store and they're like, we can't afford shit. Like, what are we going to do? Can't afford childcare. You can't afford a mortgage. You can't afford rent. I mean, it's insane. And I think people are realizing, like, hey, even if I don't pay attention to politics, I know my life sucks right now compared to under Trump.
But that's people thinking we're going to have an election, which again, I don't even think we're going to have an election.
No, I mean, if we're right on the verge of like we're in proxy wars, like it's gonna happen.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just like Ukraine, which by the way, again, Zelensky said this isn't the time for an election. So once again, he's
Right.
saying like no election. Yeah, they'll pull the same shit here. And then by then they'll like, Biden will probably be taken out because he's too ill or too old or whatever. And then yeah, they'll but figure out a way to like nominate and get Newsom in there or something.
It'll
They've
be
got
some kind of emergency. It'll be an emergency order or something that doesn't require any kind of vote or any kind of approval from Congress. I mean, it's going to be some shady, illegal, treasonous move.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And meanwhile, they're going to keep attacking Trump for things that like aren't even crimes.
Yeah,
And
what's
so,
going on? What's going on with Trump?
all right, so the New York case that Letitia James, the attorney general, once again, like their city and state is being overrun by illegals, according to the mayor, but she's spending every single day in the front row at court, like watching like it's so stupid. It's like you have a whole team of people. Why are you there? Don't you have bigger issues to handle? It's so ridiculous. And he ended up testifying in court. And I mean, you know how he is. Like, I don't know what he said because there's no cameras in there, but apparently, like, he said a lot. And afterwards, his attorney held a press conference and she went off. She said that the judge is unhinged. And I'm just going to play the clip because I freaking love this woman. She is like such a badass. So I'm just going to let her say what happened.
Sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here. And you know what? You shouldn't either. Because not every American citizen gets a camera and a microphone. And what I'm seeing is such a demise of American judicial system and democracy. Miss James came out this morning and said that she knew Mr. Trump, and she always calls him Mr. Trump because it kills her that he was the president. But the 45th president of this country, one of the best presidents we've had, has built a great company. It's worth a ton more than that statement of financial condition. And she doesn't know how to get out of it because her politics won't allow her. She calls him a bully. She says he's going to bring out racial slurs. He's going to say things today and taunt her. Well, Miss James, you taunted him. Before you came into office, before you saw one record, one statement of financial condition, you taunted him. You said his administration was too male and too pale. Those are her words. She said that she and Michael Cohen were going to be his biggest nightmare. Well, I have some news for you, Miss James. Michael Cohen folded, lied, and crumbled. Your star witness, along with all the DAs and corrupt AGs, need to be paying attention to what happens when you let us take the stand. When you let my client speak the truth, and the judge can tell me to sit down, and he can try and shorten my client's testimony, but it is loud and clear. They've got nothing. They've got nothing but their politics. She's got nothing but her Soros backing, which we discovered recently. And I am sick and tired of seeing it. Pay attention, America.
Another Jewish person, Soros. Like, where's he on all this? You know, he funded a lot of these universities.
That was good. That was pretty awesome.
I have like a girl crush on her. She is such a badass. Like, she's this petite, gorgeous woman, but then she opens her mouth and she could take down anyone. I mean, she is like so good at just poking holes in their story. And she gave a very long press conference. That was just a little bit of it, but she's basically saying like, fuck you to the, judge and Letitia James, and they're going to win on appeal, because they realize like, no matter what they say or do, no matter what the evidence shows, they've already convicted. Like, they're already sentencing him. You know what I mean? So she's not even worried about it at this point. They're just going to fight it on appeal because nothing about this case is normal. I also found out this was the first time a case like this has ever been brought in New York City for this financial thing, which is basically like they're saying that his financial statement said that it was greater than what it actually is. And anyone that's ever run a business, owned a business, knows anything about anything, knows that's bullshit. Like, it's just they pulled this out of their ass, basically.
It's like every other thing that he's been accused of or convicted of. It's all like unheard of things that have never happened before, and they wouldn't be happening to anybody else except because he's Trump.
But I say let them keep going with it, because he doesn't have to campaign at this point. Every time he goes to court, every time they indict him, the polls go more and more and more in his favor. So like, they're making the case for him. He doesn't even have to go out and campaign at this point. But yeah, she's amazing. She is like on it with all this stuff. And she basically gave like a campaign speech of talking about why this should concern every American. And she went into more detail about how normal Americans can't afford attorneys and sure as hell don't have the press and cameras asking for a response. They're screwed. And she's like, so what are you going to do when they come and do this to you and say that you misreported something and you don't have the funds to defend yourself or to speak to the public and explain your side of the story? And she's absolutely right. And this is setting a really dangerous precedent in New York that every business owner there should be worried about. So the whole thing's just crazy. And the fact that we have so many things going on right now, and this is how they choose to spend tax dollar money, going after Trump for something like this. It's so, it just puts into perspective like how out of whack they are with everything. I mean, every step they make is the wrong move. And it's like, on the one hand, the silver lining is I think most rational people that pay any attention whatsoever are seeing that and are realizing we cannot have another 4 years of this. Whether they like Trump or hate him, they're realizing like Joe Biden's America is dangerous and it's expensive and it's not a world that we want to live in. And they'll come up with some way, like we said, to get him out and put Newsom in, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay, I have to bring something up totally like random, but you just made me think of this because you were talking about how, normal people just they can't afford lawyers and all that shit. And you know how in the beginning of this podcast, I was saying like, yeah, I'm stealing Wi-Fi right now. I'm not stealing Wi-Fi. I am tapping off my husband's phone. So it is not stolen Wi-Fi
The
for anyone.
FBI shows up at your house.
Yeah, right. So I'm not committing a crime. I am just linking off of my husband's phone.
Yeah, isn't that bad where you have to like worry about everything? Like,
Yeah,
you know
like I'm
that
like, I
they're
feel compelled to say that now.
yeah, seriously. It's crazy. It is crazy times that we're living in. And that's just, the past few days since we've talked last. So hopefully you get
Wow.
Wi-Fi soon, but I'm gonna keep taking notes and I'll keep you posted because shit's getting wild.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can at least try to do some research before Friday and be a
Yeah,
better
well,
contributor.
Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in. A lot going on. We'll keep everyone posted and informed on the craziness, and we'll see you back here on Friday. Have a good night.